Okay.
Still, die Nacht ist ausgesterben und der Frost hat stark gebrannt. Sie gedenkst du, wie ich hab dich gelernt, halten a Speier in die Hand. Sie gedenkst du, wie ich hab dich gelernt, halten a Speier in die Hand. A Meid, a Pelzel und a Bett und halt in Hand fest an a Gant. A Meid mit a Sameten Ponen, it op dem seines Karawan. A Meid mit a Sameten Ponen, it op dem seines Karawan. Gezielt, geschossen und getroffen, hat ihr Kleininker Pistol erneut auf Linken mit Waffen verhalten, hat sie mit dem Keul. Erneut auf Linken mit Waffen verhalten, hat sie mit ein Keul. Vertag von Walderreus gekrochen, mit Schneegirlanden auf die Horn. Gemutigt von Kleininken die Sachen, war unser neuem freien Dorf. Gemutigt von Kleininken die Sachen, war unser neuem freien Dorf.
Okay. So let's start and read the English. Henrietta, Henrietta, would you like to start reading it? Henrietta?
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay, so.
Hersch Glick was 19 when the Nazis occupied Vilna. He was a member of the Yiddish literary group Jungwald, an offshoot of Young Vilna, some of whose writers were Chaim Grada, Avram Suskova, and Shmerke Kazligansky. He wrote
Never mind. Kaczerginsky. I say it.
He wrote poems and songs, and his song, The Partizan Lied, is sung at memorials all over the world. In 1942, Abba Kovner warned the ghetto that the Nazis planned to exterminate all the Jews. It is better to fall in battle in the ghetto than to be led like sheep to Ponar. He and Glick, Sutzkevar, and Kaznerginsky and others organized the Freien Kite Partizana Organization, the United Partisan Organization, to sabotage the Germans as best they could. They chose Yitzhak Wittenberg as their commander.
Okay. Do you want to continue, please?
Wittenberg was betrayed to the Germans, and when it was clear that there was little support for a ghetto uprising, many partisans escaped to the nearby woods and fought the Germans from there, alongside the Red Army partisans. Glick wrote, Stille Nacht is ausgestimmt. It's quiet, the night is full of stars, when he was fighting in the woods. As Naginski, I lost my plate, reports in his book, Chorben Vilna, The Destruction of the Jewish Community, that Glick was caught by the Gestapo in 1944 and sent to the Goldfields slave labor camp in Estonia. He and others escaped, but were killed by the Germans. Women also fought in the FPO, and among them was Sonia Modersky, Cecilia Rosenberg, Ruska
Rushka
Korzak, and Vita Kempner.
Wittke Kempner.
Yeah.
Oh.
Some say that Kempner was Hersch Glick's inspiration for the song. Good.
Okay, so thank you. And Daniel, can you read the rest of the English, please?
Sure. Mina, I think he sent me the wrong, he sent me still the...
Yeah, that's the same.
But it has different words, different things.
But Neely, we are reading now the prefix.
In English.
We are reading the English, and then we will read the English.
Because...
But it's different in mine.
Yeah, Maurice.
Mina.
Can you send me this one?
Right now, I cannot send
anything. Not now, later. Thank you.
I'll send you later. Maurice, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's I had added a sentence to that version, but the rest of it is the same.
Okay. Neely, I will send you after the class. I will resend it to you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Daniel, can you read it?
Yeah, sicher. After the Soviets liberated Vilna, Kovner, Kempner, and others organized a clandestine group called Nekhom, Revenge, to murder German POWs and Nazis on the loose. This effort did not last long, but Kovner and Kempner reached out to help Jewish survivors by smuggling them into British-occupied Palestine. During the Eichmann trial, Kovner testified about the mass murder of Jews in Vilna. Both Kovner and Kempner had been members of Hashomer Hatzair before the war.
Hashomer Hatzair.
They settled in Kibbutz Ein HaHoresh and had two sons. By the way, great Daniel Kahn song about Necham, if you ever want to hear it.
Which one? Which one again? Sorry, I couldn't.
Daniel Kahn has a song called Necham Revenge. I think it's called 6 Million Germans.
Okay, maybe you can send it to Maurice, please.
Sure, I can.
Yeah, can send it to Maurice, please. I saw you, Isabel, but just a moment. So this recording is from the album Partisans of Vilna, and the singer is Josh Valetsky. Okay, now Isabel, yes, what? Isabel?
I recorded this song on this album called Composers of the Holocaust. Stille die Nacht ist ausgestorben. And I can send it to Maurice if you'd like.
Okay.
that'd be lovely.
Send it to Maurice, and yeah. Maurice, you're going to get a lot of of recordings. Not only this, a friend of mine is bringing me something like 12 CDs in Yiddish. Her father died and he left the CDs, and I'm going to get them in 2 weeks. So you're also going to get them.
Okay.
Okay, so let's now start reading the Yiddish. Isabel, since you recorded it, you probably know the word. So go on.
Stille die Nacht ist euch gesternt und der Frost hat, it was a long time ago that I recorded it. Und der Frost hat stark gebrannt. Sie gedenkst du, wie ich hab dich gelernt, halten a Speyer in die Hand.
Okay, so can you translate it?
The night is still and starry, and the frost is I don't understand the word gebrannt when we're talking about frost.
It's an idiom.
Okay.
Brent via frost, yeah. It's an idiom.
It means it's very, very cold.
Yeah, okay. You know how I learned to hold a Speyer.
Well, it's a question. Sie gedenkst du? Do you remember?
Do you remember?
Sie gedenkst du? Do you remember how I taught you to hold a gun in your hand?
Thanks.
It's C is like a question mark. It's like in Spanish, you have a question mark at the beginning of a question just to show that it's a question. Sie gedenkst du? Do you remember?
Okay. Julia, can you read? Julia, do you hear me? Okay, maybe later. Steve, please.
Okay. A moid, a peltzel, un beret?
Yeah, that's right.
A beret.
A beret, yeah, beret. Un halt in hand fest nagan.
Nagan.
A what?
Nagan.
Okay. A moid, a woman? Is that a woman?
Young woman, right?
A pelt, there's young.
No, well, this is a fur.
The fur.
It's
what?
like a fur collar or a fur scarf.
Okay. A young woman with in fur and a beret, and and holds in her hand. I have no idea what Festenogen is.
So fest is tightly. She holds it
tightly. Fest
and a gun is a gun.
A rifle.
Rifle. Yeah. Rafael, yes.
Yeah, a Nagant is a 7-chambered pistol made by Emile and Leon Nagant from Belgium.
Wow. Okay.
Why I didn't know that, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
That's true.
Go on.
A moid mit a samet tenem punim hit up them shoinus caravan. A young lady with a samet, and I'm not a word I know.
Velvet
face.
A velvet face. You know what? This is above my pay grade here.
Okay, Maurice.
So the verb is ophieten, which is to observe, to watch carefully. Ophieten. So she's watching carefully the enemy's caravan, the enemy's procession.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Can you repeat which is the verb? I saw. And can you maybe put your cursor there? I'm not.
Please,
where are we with?
Amoid mit der Samet and Emponem. Can you repeat it, Maurice?
Yeah. But the next part, the up.
Ophieten.
So heaten by itself means to watch, to guard. And opeten is also, it's to observe. She watches.
Oh, so the first word is
heat up. It's the verb, it's opeten.
But where's the rest of the word? I'm trying to.
Here.
There, I see the up.
It's a different form. The word before it, heat.
That's what I meant.
Up heat, it's heat up.
Basia, it's a separable prefix.
That's right.
That I know, but I see the
right.
piece, but I wasn't hearing it correctly. Yeah, I know it's separable, but I thought you said opeten and just didn't. I didn't connect the dots.
Okay. Claire, would you continue, please? Claire.
That's I lost it now. This here. I just want to say opheaten. There's an expression, Gott soll opheaten. God may prevent anything bad. It's an expression used a lot. Yeah, like people talking.
But what does shonus mean? The next word.
Sinus.
Enemies? No? Sinus?
Yeah.
Oh, enemies. Oh, sinus. Oh, okay.
The enemies. It's a possessive.
Thank you. I shut him down.
Okay, view options. I'm lost. I don't
think
I'm in. I don't see the text. I don't know what I touched here. I'm not too good with the
we
computer.
See it. We see it.
Okay, what do I do? Yeah, I did see it before, and now
no, it's here. I mean, I still see it.
You may have closed.
Screen?
You may have minimized your screen.
So how do I open it up?
You should see it either up in the corner. Maybe there's a little box with a green arrow.
Yeah, you are viewing Mina Grauer's screen.
Right.
Pick
so
it
click on the green arrow.
Okay.
You see it now?
No, it didn't go in. It didn't go away.
Okay, so
view options. Okay, where do I go?
Down at the bottom, do you see a zoom, a little zoom icon way down at the bottom in your taskbar?
Okay.
Like you might have minimized zoom accidentally.
But it would go in the right-hand corner with that green arrow. Right-hand corner, there should be a little box.
Well, mine is in the left corner.
All right, it's in the corner.
I just want to mention.
Yeah, but if Zoom itself was minimized, it would be a little blue circle that says Zoom on it. And if you click on that, the whole thing opens up again.
Let's leave, Claire, you will just listen to us, okay? Just listen to us.
Okay, sure.
No problem. Because it will take too much. Just listen to us this time.
Sorry.
No problem. Elaine, can read?
Ja, gezielt geschossen und getroffen. Hat ihr Kleinker Pistol. She aimed, shot, and hit. She had a very small pistol. An Euter Fullinken mit Waffen verhalten hat sie mit ein Keul. A full one with a weapon. She stopped the car with one bullet.
Good.
Okay, is coil the same? Is that the same word as coal?
No. What?
No. Bullet.
Coil is
bullet. Coil is bullet.
No. I know that, but how did we? I remember coal in another.
Coil is also coal.
Same coil. Okay.
Right. It's also coal.
Okay. Refoil. Yeah.
Yeah, a matter of grammar here. Since English is our first language, and in English, you put the subject before the verb, it is confusing. But look at those first two lines. The subject is in the second line. Her very small pistol aimed, shot, and hit. So it's not that she aimed, it's the small pistol is the subject.
Okay. Thank you.
Everything is verkehrt.
Okay. Cookie, you can read or it will be painful?
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah. Fartog von Wald Arois gekrochen. They crept out of the woods mit Schneigerlanden auf die Horde. What's Schneigerlanden?
Garlands of snow.
Garlands.
Oh, garlands in the hair. Gemuttigt von Kleineken Netzchen.
Zochen.
What's that first letter?
Nitzochen.
Bechochen?
Nitzochen.
Nitzochen? I don't know what that means.
Maurice will translate.
Okay. Far unser neuen freien Dort, for our new freedom Dort, freedom generation, for our new generation of freedom.
Yeah.
That's the third
Maurice,
one. Do it again.
Please, everything, please. Maurice.
Fartog von Wald Arois gekrochen. In the early morning, at dawn, crawled out from the woods with snow garlands on her hair. Gemuttigt von Kleineken Nitzochen, encouraged by little victories for unser neuen freien Dort, for our new free generation.
Yeah. Can I wanted to ask a question about pronunciation with the two yuds as opposed to one with a line underneath. So I always pronounce that would be, to me, Kleinen, but I notice most people pronounce it Klein.
It depends on your dialect.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I read
since
it,
we are not going into the subject of dialect.
No, I just want to make sure I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not missing anything. So you're pronouncing it the same way you would pronounce it if it had a line under.
Either way.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think if it had a line under is different, like Naim with a line, but the two yuds itself is, we say Kleinenken.
Yeah. Right.
But with the
a lot of people also say Kleinenken.
That's
what I'm hearing.
That's the Galiciana.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. I think we should just, be quiet and listen to it once again.
Nacht ist ausgesternt und der Frost hat stark gebrannt. Sie gedenkst du, wie ich hab dich gelernt, halten ein Speier in die Hand. Sie gedenkst du, wie ich hab dich gelernt, halten ein Speier in die Hand, am Meid, a Pelzel und a Bett, und halt in Hand fest an a Gan, am Meid mit a Samet einem Ponen, it op dem seines Karawan. Amoide mit a Samet einem Ponen, it op dem seines Karawan. Gezielt, geschossen und getroffen, hat ihr Kleininker Pistol erneut auf Linken mit Waffen hat sie mit dem Keul. A night of falling mit Waffen verhalten hat sie mit dem Keul. Tag von Walderreis gekrochen, mit Schneegirlanden auf die Horn, gemutigt von Kleiningen die Sachen, war unser neuem freien Dorf. Gemutigt von Kleiningen die Sachen, war unser neuem freien
Okay. Yes, Rochelle?
Can somebody translate gemutigt von Kleinigen Nitzoren for me?
It's encouraged by small victory.
Encouraged, okay. Because sein mutig is to be tired, no?
No.
All right, so I'm confusing two words. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions about the song?
Yes, what's gemutigt mean?
Encouraged.
To be encouraged, Sandra. Sandra, that's okay?
Discouraged? I didn't hear you.
Encouraged.
Encouraged. That's what I thought. Okay.
Well,
it's important to note that women were fighting. That's, to me, the best part of the song. That they let the women be the fighters as well as the men.
Morty?
Yes, just wanted to mention that in the first stanza, in the last line, Maurice translated the word Speyer correctly for the context as gun, but really the word means a spitter, and that can be used as a in this context as gun, but Speyer is a spitter, which is a rough way to call a gun or something like that. Yeah, that's all I got.
It spits out bullets.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Marsha?
In the next one, go down where you were before. Nitzochen. Nitzochen.
Victory. Victory.
Victories.
What? Susan?
Oh, I think gemutigt has to do with the word mood, the mood lifted. It's related to the English word mood. Is it not?
It's related to the Yiddish word mut, which means courage, spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. Isabel?
I wondered why there are three different words for the weapon. That is Speyer and Nagan and Pistol.
Yeah, well, they used whatever weapons they could find.
Yeah, but she's got one gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
to it with three different words.
That's a song, you know. Yes, to
poetic license.
It's poetic, yeah, exactly. It will be boring or uninteresting only with one. Elaine?
Yeah, I got pistol for Speyer. So I thought that was, I know Spy is spit, but I got, from the dictionary gave pistol rather than, like machine gun or a longer, a bigger gun kind of thing.
I couldn't find Speyer in the dictionary, and they do use the word pistol in the song, pistol. So I think Speyer, maybe it's like a slang word for a machine gun that spits out bullets.
Yes.
A slang word, a partisan word.
And in the Bachner dictionary, they use pistol. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, yeah.
Slang was really popular amongst partisans. These are not soldiers. They are not going to talk about ein Gewehr unless it's a very specific pistole. I've heard a lot of slang words like this used.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
yes. Okay, thank you, right. Okay, so.
Mina.
Yes.
I just want to say when I sent out the song, I had changed the first sentence. That's why Nili got confused, because the one that we watched on the screen is the original version from a couple of years ago. And so what was in that first sentence is just to let people know that on the website of Ingeveb last week, there was an excerpt from Kaczerginski's memoir, Ich bin gewesen a Partisan, and that excerpt is all about Hirsch Glick. So if you're interested in Hirsch Glick, go on the web, go to Ingeveb, and it was the last, I think the last edition, it was last week, and you'll see there's a whole thing about Hirsch Glick, including an excerpt from Kaczerginski's book, from his memoir. That's all.
Maurice, if you change anything in a song that we already listened to, let Michael know about it, because otherwise he's just sending me the old version.
Yeah, I did let him know, but I don't think he saw it.
No, I don't think, because he was confused about the days. I had to ask him to send it to me today. He was a bit confused.
Right, yeah, I did send it to him, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay, but that's why.
No problem. Nili,
just letting you know why Nili didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Nili, I will send it to you later. So, okay, any more?
Wait, I just want to ask one thing.
Thank you.
Wasn't it those Sutskever and those people who hid things in Vilna because they knew, didn't they hide things? Sutskever.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, the ones that we talked in the preview of the piece that Henrietta read, right? Am I right? When they saw that the ghetto was going to be liquidated, they started hiding everything.
Well, they started hiding things early on, not just at the end when the ghetto was being destroyed, but there were a number of them who were forced by the Germans to work in what they called the Papierbrigade. The Germans were going to take what they thought were the best things and send them back to Germany for a museum of a vanished people, and the rest was just going to be burned or destroyed. But in the meantime, all those people, Chaim Grade and Sutskever, Kaczerginski, they smuggled stuff out, like under their clothes, and they buried stuff in buildings behind walls, or they gave them to sympathetic Christians. And then at the very end, when the Soviets and the partisans came back to Vilna, they started to dig up all that stuff that they had been able to squirrel away. And then they sent it, I think, first to Paris and then from there to New York. But eventually it ended up all at the YIVO in New York.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a movie. They made a movie. We had it at the book fair about 2 years ago. It's a very upsetting movie, but it's all about the Paper Brigade. I'm sure the book's written too.
Right.
Thank you, Maish.
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you, guys. So let's move to the story. And we read the part of the story last time. It's about a new immigrant to South Africa who becomes a peddler and goes from house to house trying to sell his wares, but he is not very successful in his new job. And he's trying another to sell something else, but we will see that, you know, even in the new version of what he's doing. Sorry? Okay. So let's continue with the story and see what becomes of him. Okay. I will enlarge it in one moment. Okay, guys? So we are the last paragraph
of 149.
Und jedes Mal. That's where we are now. And Morty, can you start reading?
Are we?
Es ist Größe.
Morty is not there now. Noch größer?
Noch größer.
One more. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zweimal.
Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Susan, und jedes Mal?
Und jedes Mal, wenn geht, a Schmitz sein Ball mit Farnes, baut ihm ein philosophisch humanistische Frage. And each time when he, I'm not sure what that is, Gitter Schmitz sein Ball Mefarnes. How would you translate that?
He strikes the whip on his bread.
Yeah, the Bal Mefarnes refers to the horse.
To the what?
Refers to the horse, Bal Mefarnes.
Oh,
the horse that is a balegule.
The one who helps him with his livelihood.
Yeah. Rafael, just
a
moment. Rafael, you have another?
Yeah, I'd have to see more of the context, but a schmitz can also mean a small amount. It also means a lash. And a Baal Mefarnes literally is the one who is supporting him with income. It might be his horse, or it could be the person who supplies his goods. I don't know.
Rafael, the previous paragraph is talking about his horse.
Okay, then it is. Good, thank you.
Yeah, so that's why, because he's talking about his horse.
Sein Baal Mefarnes fällt ihm ein, a philosophisch-humanistische Frage, and he thinks of a philosophical, humanistic question. Was für ein Recht hat zu schlugen und peinigen a lebendige Beschäftignis? How does he have a right to hit and to hurt a live creature mit alter, ausgematterte Beine, a live creature who has old, tired out bones? Zu lieb dem, was darf machen a Leben, it's because of that, the fact that he has to make a living. Und proved verändern sich allein, and he tries to come up giving his own answer.
Verändern is to justify himself. He's trying to justify himself.
Yes, he justifies. He finds an answer that justifies his thinking. As is in dem nicht schuldig, and justifies by saying he is not guilty. He's not the guilty party. Hat zuerst geprüft machen a Leben mit seinen Fies. He originally tried to make a living with his own feet. A rumgehen dick mit dem Chimedan, going around with his suitcase, und klappen dick in die Tieren and knocking on the doors. As a peddler, I guess. Hat sich upgeplogt a gewisse Zeit und beschum Eufen nicht gekannt sich auslernen. He tried hard a certain time, and he was not at all able to learn how to do it, but by making a parnosa, by knocking on doors. The edele Malocha von a Seucher, wie der Vetter hat ihm gerotten. That's the fine work as a salesman which his uncle had wanted him to do. Der selber...
Vater is father.
No, Vater here is uncle.
Oh,
No, his uncle. Go on, Susan.
Yes.
Isn't a cycler a businessman?
Uh-huh.
A cycler is
a merchant. Somebody
a merchant
who sells things.
Okay.
Okay, Susan, just a moment. Elaine, yes?
The meaning of the word geraten?
Advised.
Geraten.
Advised.
Oh, advise. And is that the verb? Is that the infinitive form too?
Raten, yeah.
Geraten.
Well, here it's past tense, but raten is to advise.
Oh, raten. Okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Susan, go on.
Der selber gute Vetter hat ihm jetzt besorgt mit Pferd und Wägele. And the same good uncle got for him now a horse and a little wagon. Mechabe gewein ihm mit der Parnose von a Fruchtenhändler and gave him the honor of earning a living as a fruit peddler. A so viel Jeden machen ein Leben von Fruchten, hat sucht Wird sein noch einer. So many Jews make their living from fruits, so there'll be another one.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Yes, Elaine.
The word besorgt, isn't Sorgen worries? Is it related to that at all? What does the word besorgt mean? It says here.
Refoel is answering. Refoel.
Yeah, Sorgen does mean to worry, but Besorgen, although it's from the same root, has a completely different meaning. Sometimes prefixes do that. Besorgen is to supply, to equip.
Okay, Elaine? Good? Okay, Karen, will you continue, Karen?
Yes.
אז איך אומרים אבא?
Weiß, as das ist
later, Millie. Okay, weiß.
Weiß, as das ist der letzte Proof. He knows that this is the last try. Ob wird nicht teugen zu fruchten, if he doesn't, if he isn't able to manage with fruit, is ois mit Africa. He's out of Africa. Sis svara as der Vetter mit die Landsleit wollen sich zusammennehmen, ton mit im Chassid. It is likely that if the father with the landsman will will gather themselves together with a chassid und im zurückschicken aheim, and
אחד אומר פאטר שזה דוד ואחד אומר שזה אבא.
and they will send him back home. Geht a leichten Zitter und hab sich auf wie von Cholem. He had a light shiver, and he woke up as if from a dream. Weiß, as der Fruchthandel is euch nicht for him. He knows that being a fruit merchant is also not for him. Es hilft aber nicht. muss trying. It doesn't help. He must try. Zet, als is schon bald durchgefahren die ganze Gas. He sees that he is soon going through the whole street und es ist noch kein Anheb nicht. And it is not yet any, and nothing has started yet. Der sich, als darf schreien, he recalls that he needs to call out, to yell out. Hust sich gut aus und gibt Geschrei. He clears his throat and gives a shout mit modnem, with modnem pitch, with a strange shriek, und mit a clip, and with a screech.
Okay, thank you, Karen, because next paragraph is Bonnie's paragraph. But before we move, Morty, can you tell Neely the difference between father and uncle in Yiddish?
Yes, in Yiddish, Vetter means uncle. Futter means father. Futter or tate, but the word futter is the formal word for father. Vetter is different from futter.
Okay, Neely? Neely, that's okay? Okay.
I have the word gerutten. Gerutten to me is like endowed. You know, like you say a child is very gerutten, not advice. Does anybody know?
It's advised.
Advised. But gerutten, when you have someone
that's correct, but that's not in this context.
Right. Okay, but I just wanted to know that it does also when you're talented, when you're endowed.
Yeah, gerutten in the mama. Yeah, gerutten.
Right.
Okay.
You take after.
Okay. Rafael, Marsha, and Steve. Yeah. Rafael?
Yeah, it's a different root. Raten is to advise, and so geraten, advised. Rotten, and which you almost never find without the g. Gerotten is the present tense and the past tense. Means it has various meanings. It can mean to take after someone, or it can mean to come to fruition. But it's a different verb, and the verb we have here is raten, past tense geraten.
Okay, thank you, Marsha. Yes.
Yes, good. The word creep. She said screech. Did I hear right?
Yes, screech is right. Yes.
Sorry, it's not
creep,
it's grip.
Yeah. Steve?
Yeah, I just, maybe, I don't know who, maybe Raphael would know this, but in the paragraph it says a geschrei, where the indefinite object is next to, I mean, it's one with the verb, and in creep it's separated, which is normal. And I'm wondering, is that just a printing error, or is that common practice to include the indefinite object in the structure of the verb itself?
Okay, the foil.
It's a typo.
It's a typo. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all. Bonnie, oranges.
Okay, I was having some problems with my internet. So you won't be able to see my face at the moment.
I see your face.
All right, I'm going to read this from what I printed out.
Okay.
Okay, oranges. It's Svetna.
It's English, Bonnie. It's English.
Okay. Oh, 20. 20 Faden.
25 above. 25 above. Oranges,
Okay.
25 above.
25, okay, above. Okay. Oranges.
What is a bob here, guys? What do you think? What is a bob?
Is it English?
Each.
What's
Maurice?
currency?
An orange, a bob.
A
No.
bun?
No.
I don't think so,
A
Maurice.
bob is I think a weight.
Okay, anyone
Well,
else?
he's selling oranges. So what would he be calling out?
Weight.
Yeah, but
Oranges, 25 a bob. I guess a bob is his way of saying oranges.
It could be a bag. It could be a bushel.
Weight.
You know, it's definitely. It seems to me some kind of an amount. I don't know if it's individual,
right?
But
Maybe
it could
it's
be.
weight.
You know, I doubt if it would be weight because it wouldn't.
Is it
well, it could be
dollars? Does it say dollars?
no, it's
No.
25.
No, it's South Africa.
South Africa.
So maybe it's
a bob
it's
is some
the
kind
weight.
of. It seems to me some kind of weight measurement or
Either a
size
weight
measurement.
or something about a bunch.
Well, a bob is actually a bean. So
No.
it's the
No, no.
individual orange.
No.
Like,
Maybe.
May I try?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Okay. A shilling.
Okay.
A bob was slang word for a shilling.
I said English, I meant really British.
Okay, Rafael, yes. You checked it?
Yeah, bob has all sorts of meanings. And here, so it can mean a shilling, but it doesn't here. And it can mean a kind of haircut, but it doesn't here. But it can mean a bunch or a cluster. And so here, very likely, it's a bunch or possibly an individual one.
Okay, so probably
But it's English.
selling
It's
them.
English. Nothing
Yeah.
to do with the Yiddish bob.
No. Okay, so it's probably selling them, you know, a group of some oranges together. Yeah. Okay, Bonnie, continue.
Okay. Eenmaal, tweemaal, onze helft. Now, I'm thinking he's saying once, twice, and it's the helft. Something about helping. I don't know. Help yourself.
And it helps. Once, twice is calling. Once is calling twice, and it helps.
Yeah. And but what do you think that what do you think the helft means in that context?
It works.
It works.
It works.
It works.
Right.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. A vrouw komt eruit van een huis. A woman comes out from her house. Mister, had etwas gute oranges? Mister, maybe you have good oranges? Gute, Mister, oranges? Wieder. So she's repeating, good oranges, and I'm not sure. Oh,
He's answering.
But then I understood his speed means like what else? When my mother would say "wooden,"
yeah.
I would think it is like new. What else? Is that would you translate it that way?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah. Und is zufrieden, was weiß schon, wie einzureden.
Einzureden. How he knows how to answer.
Einzureden. Okay. Is that actually? Is that he's using English or is that actually a Yiddish word?
No, that's
einzureden is to convince someone.
Convince, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, and okay, so he says, what else? And he's pleased. What is this? What he want? This what he wants already?
No.
That he already knows.
So it's was weiß schon what he already. Oh, weiß would be no in that.
No,
Okay.
that he already knows. Wie einzureden. How to convince.
Oh. And so the wie einser
to convince someone. He's convincing them to buy his oranges.
Okay.
Is it convince or persuade someone?
Well, it's the same thing. He's out there peddling oranges.
Okay. Okay. So before we continue, yes, Morty?
Yes, just wanted to mention, in this case, vus is not what, but in this case, it's understood as that he knows.
That he knows, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I really struggled. I kept looking that up and I wasn't sure. Okay. Die Freu kleeft lange, I guess it's Zeit, die Fruchten und geht zu lesen, get to lesen a shilling.
A shilling.
A shilling.
So they are. It's definitely British. They definitely were talking British. I'm sure above.
He's in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, I was in South Africa, but I don't remember what kind of money they used.
The same. Very British there.
Okay.
Well, there were also the Dutch, but that's another story.
Okay,
the woman, and I'm not sure what claved. It took something that it took a long time. But that's what claved is.
Chooses. Picks.
She's picking. Yeah,
she picks the oranges.
Okay, so she picked She picked the fruit a long time, and I'm not sure what lesen is. Is that the person's? Is that somebody's name?
No.
She let him earn a shilling.
Oh, so is that like what we say?
She let him earn a shilling.
Okay.
Earn. Oh.
So the lesen is to earn?
Yeah.
Okay. But stark zufrieden is zenit, but she's not really, she isn't strongly pleased, really pleased. Gute Sahura, and I'm not sure what that is.
Merchandise.
Yeah.
Okay. Sagt sie, hat and I don't know what this Sema.
Sammy. She means the black guy.
I'm sorry, she means what?
The black guy.
Oh. Is that a kind of a pejorative for a black person?
Not at the time. Nowadays, yes. At the time, it was what it was. They didn't think about pejorative at that time. But...
No problem. I didn't know how else to phrase it. Mit wem sie handelt schon von Jahren. So, I know handled
the black guy. The black guy with whom she's dealing for years, he has good merchandise.
Okay, so the handled has nothing to do with bargaining there?
Here is to deal with.
Is to what?
To deal.
Business deal.
Oh, dealing.
D-A-L.
Got it. Okay. Nora's Yid fort. Sorry about that. The Yid fort mit Fruchten darf man ihm Geld geben to lesen. So, sorry, nor us. A Yid travels with the Yid travels with fruit. There, people given to.
When a Yid travels with fruits, so you should give him something to earn, to make a living, to earn.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay. It was a challenge, but thank you for all bearing with me.
Okay, Refoil, yes.
Yeah, looking back at this 25 a bob, of course it's English and it's not all that important, but it could either mean 25 is the cost for a bob, which is an amount of oranges, or it could be 25 oranges for a bob, which is a unit of money, and I'm not sure which. So anyway,
I don't think they would buy 25 oranges from a pet. It just doesn't make sense from a peddler.
Right. Yeah, 25 oranges is a bit too much, probably.
Right. Well, Bob Pollock just put something interesting in the chat.
Yeah.
Maybe
okay.
You can help us, Bob.
Okay, Bob, can you just
I can't help it, but I've always heard of a bob implying a pound, a British pound.
No, a bob is a shilling, not a pound.
Oh, shilling.
Right.
Okay, well, then there you go.
Okay.
But that's a lot of oranges. Yeah, probably 25 shillings sounds better for them.
Well, person, wasn't it 25 shillings or what earlier?
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of the situation here is that a bob back then is worth a lot, but that oranges were probably very plentiful because of the climate there. Like where in Europe to get an orange in Eastern Europe, like my father used to say that the only person got an orange is when they were either extremely wealthy or they were dying, and they would give them an orange to taste it once in their life. There, I imagine that they were very plentiful. So having 25 oranges for a shilling, it's a considerable amount of money, I think, back then. And I agree with Steve on that, because I've been to places foreign, Europe, Asia, where for $1 you can get a huge carton of, like a crate of something at the end of the day, or different times in the market. So it's possible, for sure.
Okay, Susan?
When they mention Sammy as the, and this is probably the black man that he's dealing with, the African, because it comes from the folk character Sambo, and stories went back to the 19th century, Little Black Sambo, as a stereotypical black or African character.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Louisa.
Thank you. I wanted to go back before we leave the page, if I may, to the second paragraph, because I think that we need to review a couple of the words in the Hebrew there, where it says Herbeis and so forth, the second paragraph of this page.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where it says Oib Herbe, blah, 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 and then the third sentence, Sis a Sveire. Would that be, it is an assumption? As better that the uncle?
Yeah, Svara.
An assumption, right?
Yeah, it's like Svara in Hebrew, yeah.
Right, so the assumption is that the uncle with his fellow countryman will sich zusammennehmen,
that will be in the future. They will get together.
Get together. And then it says, Don mit ihm a chesed, do him a favor. Am I right here?
Yes, they will do him a favor and
send him back.
Send him back, yeah.
So
exactly what will happen.
So, will sich zusammennehmen would be zusammennehmen, get together with him?
Get together.
Get
them
together.
together.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we are here. Fortador. Barbara, please. Barbara? You're muted, Barbara. That's why we cannot hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay. Fort Adarur, etliche Gassen. So he traveled through other alleys, or a few alleys. Leest Abyssal. He took in a little bit. Aber seklecht nit af der Hetzoa. But he didn't even cover his expenses. Weiß nicht, was das soll so sein. And he didn't know why that was the case. Fahren doch fort jeden mit Fruchten und machen a Leben. Traveling around Jews with the fruit and making a living, or attempting to make a living. Efsher ken nit schreien. Perhaps he really doesn't, he can't scream. Oder schreit nicht hoch genug, or maybe he doesn't scream loudly enough. Und efsher wat nit geen by die Weiber. And perhaps he doesn't have the charm for the wives. Wird feuren noch etliche Tag. And he traveled still around a few more days.
He will. He will travel.
Oh, he will. Thank you. He will try. He will travel still a few more days. When oib svet nit teugen, and if it won't be useful, wird wieder stehen auf der Gas mit dem Wagen. He will again be standing in the road with his wagon. Did I do that correctly? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hat das schon getan, so he did it, aber die Polizei jagt von ein Ort zum anderen und verunmehrt das Leben. But the police, chased him around from one place to another and, hounded or distressed his life. Doch wird wieder proven. But then he will try again. Efscher wird sich ihm der Dosike Mischkecher eingeben, wie sie is, und ob nicht, perhaps he will the special business. And eingeben, can you please translate that for me?
Produce results.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Produce results, and perhaps not. He doesn't really know.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Rafael, will you continue, please?
Beim Jüngermanns Vetter in Esszimmer is a Stickel Simcha. At the young man's uncle's place in the dining room, there's a little bit of joy. Seien sich zusammengekommen, Landsleit, man sitzt beim Tisch, ganz gemütlich. The people from the town have gathered together, and they're sitting at the table very pleasantly. Mishmuas, mest fruchten, menash zisvarg. They're chatting, they're eating fruit, they're nashing sweets. Und von Kirch kommt dann eine große Tatz mit Tee und Sebeissichts. And out of the kitchen arrives a great platter carrying tea and things to eat, zu Beissichts. Was für a Simcha is plötzlich in a Posten Montag? So what kind of a rejoicing is this? What kind of a party is this suddenly? in a simple Monday. That's was plötzlich is an expression in Yiddish which carried over as a calque into Hebrew, ma pitom. Es ist nicht kein Tanoim, nicht kein Bar Mitzvah, nicht kein Geburtstag. It's not an engagement party. It's not a bar mitzvah. It's not a birthday. What then? So what could it be? And it says vos den, but no one pronounces the s. It's voden or vuden. It's a Gesegnung. It's a farewell evening. Bechein, der junger Mann, was ist gekommen mit etliche Chadashim zurück von Lita, is a Yitzlach. It's because this young fellow who came a few months ago from Lithuania, he is a fellow who just doesn't have any success. He's a Gever Lo Yitzlach. A Teugnet for Africa. He just doesn't fit for Africa. Und fährt zurück heim, and he's traveling back home. Dort hat gemacht a Leben. There, he was able to provide for himself. He made a living. Wird wie es ist, weitermachen a Leben. And so he will be able to somehow, again, make a living. Me redt, me erzählt, me weist Beispielen von dem, von jenem, was ist zurückgefahren. Folks are chatting and recounting and showing examples of how someone or other who traveled back managed. Mezaktim, wenn man soll abgeben grüßen in der Heim, they tell him whom he should carry greetings to back home. Mebetim soll wenn nicht wenn schreiben a Briefel. And they ask him that he should, from time to time, write a note.
Thank you, Rafael. Thanks. Rochelle, will you continue?
Okay.
Just a moment, before I see that Morty want to add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the word plötzlich, I had never heard until I came to Canada and heard some Jews use it. For us, the word was blitzen, which I just checked in the dictionary and says it's the same. Either one is a good word to use. Yeah. So blitzen or plötzlich.
Okay.
Yeah, plötzlich is German. Blitzen is Yiddish.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
And what is the definition?
All of a sudden. Or suddenly.
Suddenly, that's what I learned. Okay. I thought you said something different.
Okay, good. Rochelle.
Okay. Help me with Hebrew words. Der Baal Simcha allein, der Lo Yitzole. Useless. So the person they were celebrating, I forgot what Yolitzol.
The one that is not good for anything.
Okay.
Useless.
Nothing.
Useless.
Unsuccessful.
Sitz mit der vergliverten Ausdruck auf sein Punem. So the guy who is being celebrated to go back and is good for nothing is sitting with a frozen expression on his face. Guckt auf allemen mit stark blicken. He looks at everyone with strong.
No, it's not starke, it's starre.
Guckt auf allemen mit starre blicken. Oh, he's staring at everyone?
He's staring. Starre is fixed. Like
with fixed expression. with a fixed look.
Yes.
He's staring at them. Yeah. Okay. Verschiedene Gedanken flattern sich in sein Kopf, and different thoughts are fluttering around in his head. Hört nicht, was mir redt zu ihm. He doesn't hear what people are saying to him. Noch von die alle Rede habt bloß auf ein phrase, and from all the words he only catches one phrase. Teugnet far Africa. He doesn't belong in Africa.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So With that, we finish the story. Anyone wants to add anything, comment anything of this to the story?
Well, I'm wondering, so this is just someone else, and the fruit peddler, as we know him now, is there, but he's not reacting to it. I mean, this is where we stop.
He just couldn't get used to this.
Yeah, but this last paragraph is not about the person that we were talking about.
Yes, it is about him.
Oh, it is about
him. It is about him. That's the same one, same guy.
Okay, so he walks into this thing?
No, they arranged it for him. That's a party before he leaves. That's a farewell party.
But doesn't he ask what kind of party is this on a Monday? Is he aware that this is for him?
Yes.
Okay, because I guess I missed that. Okay.
That's the narrator's voice saying what kind of party is it.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Got it now.
Do you think that there was a larger number of people who went back from Africa to Lydda than, for example, in immigration to other places? Was it a place that was harder to get used to? Because this theme with somebody who has to go back like that is not very common in American Yiddish literature.
It's not common, but it existed.
It existed.
People went back. Yeah.
In Jaime's family, there was somebody who went back because when he came to the New World, he had to work on Shabbos. But I've heard stories like that, but nothing quite like this.
Okay, so also he didn't come to South Africa because of some kind of persecution, pogroms, or some terrible thing that had happened to him in Lithuania.
Maybe that's
that it sounds like he has the option to go back and to make a living. Most of the people that I knew that came from Eastern Europe didn't have the option to go back and survive.
Right. When would this have been?
I think the stories were written in the 1920s, 1930s. They were published in 1952, but they were written in the 20s and 30s.
Wow. So there was an assumption that people could still thrive in the old country.
Yeah. Or if not thrive, at least just rely on the old network or something like this. Here it just didn't work for him. That's it. Anything else about it? If not, we are moving.
Is the story over?
The story's over.
Oh, that's the end of the story. We don't know what happened to him.
Surprising.
We don't know what happened, if he left or if he made good.
No, he left.
No, he left.
We know that he left because that's a farewell party for him.
Oh, that was a party for him? Oh,
yes,
that wasn't
before his
leaving.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think that
Barbara, yeah.
And so I think with all the exclamation points at the end of that last sentence, I mean, it's very poignant, actually. And he just has the sense he's a congenital failure. That's the sense I get from this last paragraph.
Yeah, that's the lo yutzlach, the one that cannot succeed, that is not good.
Yeah, I'm not sure he would succeed anywhere, possibly, I'm not sure.
Maybe he went to America, the United States, or Canada.
That's another story. Marsha, yes?
Entschuldig mir. In the beginning, before you got started, Mariv and everybody was talking, and Mariv said something about Yiddish jam or Jewish jam that you could get.
Let's finish. Let's finish with talking.
Let's finish with this, and then we will. We will stay a bit later and we'll talk about it. Okay. What I want. So we finish this, and we are moving to Australia. Now, we are not going to start the story today because there is, there's not much time. So maybe that will be the next story, two very short stories. I will stop the sharing. And so the stories are Yossel Bergner. Yeah, Cookie. It relates to the story.
Yes, I just find that those stories they're like simple stories that like for children almost. It's such a simple little story, and maybe it's story of life there.
You want me to bring really difficult story for you to read? Yeah, I can do it.
No.
I can do it. We can
No, please. These are enough of a challenge.
I want it simpler and larger even. No, I'm not complaining about that. I just mean the fact that
she can do it. Minna could do it. Don't tempt her.
Make it simpler.
I can bring
like Jane.
Mendele.
I want a story that says Jane met Joe. Jane saw the deer. That's the best for me. No. What I mean is the story is a very simple story, and this was for adults there. And I'm like surprised that they would make such simple. It's a simple story. It's a story that a child could read. I would say.
He wasn't going to win the Nobel Prize for this kind of stories. He was just trying to tell an experience. Experience of of immigrants that came to one place from another place.
They're like snapshots.
I mean, you could tell that story in 3 lines.
Exactly, but
right? He went to Africa. His father-in-law tried to give him a business. He wasn't good at doing this, so he gave him a horse and cart. He wasn't good at doing that. Let him go home already. He can go do business where he lives. Goodbye.
Snapshots. They're little snapshots.
Exactly.
I know. I'm just surprised that the authors wrote those kinds of simple stories for adults.
They wrote all kinds of stuff. There were newspapers to fill.
Yes, exactly. These were short stories to go into the newspapers or the publications.
I think people lived in simpler times or something. Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful portrayal of a man who's having a problem. I found it very interesting.
I think it was a very poignant story, and there was enough vocabulary that all the experts were able to chime in and give different interpretations, not different, but variations. And we're here to learn, not again, we're not talking about the Nobel Prize.
Absolutely. My whole thing was just, the kind of story for them, for people who know Yiddish well, not for us. For me, she can have Jane jumped over the fence.
No. Louisa, before I let you, what I want to tell everyone before people start getting away is that the next 2 stories, they're very short stories, are by Yossel Bergner. And Yossel Bergner wrote very short stories. And he was born in Poland, and he reached Australia in the 30s because his grandparents came to Australia in the 30s, which was really, unusual for the time. Bergner later emigrated to Israel and continued to write stories there. So I will also send you some, some biographical links about him. But what I wanted to tell is that at the time in the 30s, in the late 30s, there was a suggestion of having Jews settle in North Australia in an area that's called Kimberley. Like the Uganda plan, and like we read about a year ago, we read something about a plan to settle in Angola. There was actually a plan to settle in Australia, in Kimberley. And Melech Ravitch, the poet Melech Ravitch, traveled to Australia and toured the place before, and there was negotiation with the Australian government. It came to nothing, of course, but there actually was a plan to settle in Australia, which I found really interesting. Now, reading about it, I found that there was the Fugo plan, that was a plan to settle in Japan, of all places.
Wow.
So we will have fun with it, but I will send you next week, I will send you more information about it so we can talk about it in class. And Louisa, now.
Thank you. I think that these two stories are among the most extraordinary stories that we have read. And I say this because the way that he captures what happens to these characters, to me, the writer is capturing the pathos, the human aspect of the immigrant experience, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. And in this day and age, for example, through my lifetime, coming from Argentina, and in connection with the United States, I heard many times people, I don't know if this is true of Peru, Morty, or other Latin American experiences, but people who would say, at least in Argentina, oh, I went to the United States, but I did not adapt myself. So this adaptation issue became even part of the language, at least in Spanish in Argentina. So those who adapt can settle down, but there are many who will go back and say, oh no, I could not adapt myself, and that's why I came back. So to me, I always thought about that because I saw a lot of people who would come back to Argentina for whatever reason, or say, I did not adapt myself. And I think it has to do with the language and culture, or culture and language of the migrant experience. Because when they are familiar with the language and culture, chances are they can adapt better. In this case, obviously, he was much more in his mind identified with the old country culture, and especially what he was doing before. And he probably could not adapt himself with the required flexibility that is the trait of those who migrate. They have to be flexible, and he just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, and I said this last week, the emotion, I mean, this brings me to tears. I mean,
think he's an extraordinary writer and worth a Nobel Peace Prize for this kind of writing. It's an extraordinary writer, I think.
So, and also, I am so happy to be following the various immigration paths that Jews have taken over the years. And then if it happens to be a country that I have visited, then it also gives me another personal feel. So I think that and I tell my friends, I said, I've been traveling around the world. So I think it's, I think it's wonderful. Yeah, so thank you, Nina.
Anyone here was in Australia?
Yeah. Never been.
Hilda? Okay. I was in Refoil where. So,
yes, me too. I've been to Australia, yes.
Yeah, but Refoil and I actually lived in Melbourne, so that's so. And I see that Hilda and Beverly, so we can also contribute. Morty, I saw that you raised your hands.
Well, I was going to follow up a little bit with Louisa. My experience with people who left our type of country and came either to the United States or to Canada, which are my two experiences, I find that the cases where they couldn't adapt was because they had a much easier life in the countries they came from. Their standard of living, and I can say that for me too, coming to Canada was, at least at the beginning, a significant lowering of standard of living.
Right.
We stood it for a few years and then more or less got accustomed to it. But definitely many people who come from our countries cannot adapt to a life where the wife has to do the housewife living, and the couple and the children have to do the housework and make a living at the same time. And they always remember the type of life they had before. That happens not only to us, but also is an experience with South Africans.
So why did you come? If they had it so easy there, why did you come to America? Huh?
Well, we can go into a whole discussion. In my particular case, it was because
this is nowadays
no, Neely. We had a very good life down there, but there were other problems. There was terrorism and there was delinquency, and my kids couldn't go out on the street by themselves. So, you know, at some point you have to weigh alternatives and decide that even if life is going to be more difficult, you just do it.
Absolutely. Also, Neely, why did you and I come to the United States? We had a good life in Israel.
I came to the United States because of my husband. I didn't want to leave Israel. I had good parents there and everything.
Yeah, but you know, but circumstances.
He could not get the right job in Israel. He has a PhD from the Weizmann Institute. It's true.
Yeah, okay, but you see, Neely, so that's what Morty is saying. There are other things that influence the decision to emigrate. So, okay, Elaine.
No, what I was going to say is that I remember hearing during the time of the big immigration from Russia from Soviet Union to Israel, that there were people who went back, you know, and to me that was unfathomable. Like what, but you know, if they just couldn't do it, you know, a new language, a new, you know, and yeah, they just couldn't do it. But I mean, it happens. It does happen. And I know in the case of my grandfather, he went back and forth from Poland several times, you know, while he was trying to establish himself before the family, you know, my father didn't come till my father was 13 when he came. In 1926, they came, you know, not during the time of the big, you know, the big Eastern Jewish migration in the early, you know, 1900s. And I think it was my grandmother had a very successful business in Poland. But evidently my grandfather wasn't as successful. I mean, that's the story I don't know the details. And he had a brother in the United States. He went back and forth and, you know, and finally, thank God, you know, thank goodness they decided to come. But again, it was probably a big down, you know, their lifestyle was much less, not as easy here as it was there, because they didn't come in steerage. You know, my father used to tell me, yeah, they came in, you know, they came on a luxury ship and they, you know, whatever. But here they settled on the Lower East Side, and my grandfather still had trouble, you know, I don't even know what he did. And my grandmother, of course, didn't have a business anymore. So.
I mean, you know, life happens. I mean, I moved to Chicago and we lived in Chicago for 17 years. I moved there for a job, and there came a point that I wanted to move back to Philadelphia. I'm not going to go into all the details, but yeah, living a life is complex. I mean, it's family.
I know. And there you didn't even have a language problem. I mean, here you come to a new country, it's a new language,
but it was also it really was a different culture living in the Midwest and living in the Northeast. So, and I'm not talking about weather, but anyway, I think we all have experiences. I mean, was there something, somebody had a question and you said you would follow up afterwards? Now I'm curious to know.
That was nearly with Uncle and yeah, but Morty already explained it.
It was Marsh's question.
No, it was about Jewish Jen, but listen, let's
Jewish Jen, sorry.
Wait, let's talk about it maybe at the beginning next time when a lot of people are here.
Yeah, I have to go.
Is there a link?
I'll send it to Beverly and she can send it out.
Okay, send it to Beverly. Yeah.
I would like, okay. Gute Woche.
Gute Woche. Luisa.
I wanted to share that my mother and father went to Argentina after the war, after the Holocaust, after the concentration camps. My uncle, my mother's brother, remained in Poland, and I saw him several times. And he explained to me that one of the reasons that he remained in Poland, he was a colonel in the Polish army, and he remained as such for years after the war. But he explained to me that he was afraid of leaving Poland after the war when my mother and father left, because he had been wounded by the Germans in his right hand. And he said, I was afraid that I would not be able to go into a new country and work with my hands, as many people had to do, because they would have had to say, go to the port and carry bags in the port, or go work the land, or go do any type of physical labor. And he knew that if he were to emigrate from Poland, he would have had to need the use of his right hand, which he did not have anymore. But he was a very, very bright man, and he was, of course, in the Polish army, and there he went through a very, very hard life and a different story. But the point is, some people can, some people cannot. Some people are successful navigating the language and culture. He would have, because he was a very smart man, but there were other constraints. So, and this is part of our human experience. And all of us as Jews, we are all either immigrants ourselves, or our parents were immigrants, or our grandparents were immigrants. And those who stayed
most
there,
Americans are descended from immigrants.
Who was here before the Sephardic Jews came here in 1964? Which ones of our ancestors or your ancestors were here before the Sephardic Jews first arrived? Nobody. So anyway, that's my point, is that we're all going through the same experience, whether it's our parents, grandparents, or us, all of us.
Cookie, yeah.
I had the same problem. Ich hab gehad dezelfde Zures, weil ich hab nur geredet Jiddisch Kind weiß. Rausgegangen in Gas, ist gewesen eine andere Culture, wie es gewesen in Haus. So I really I left the culture from, I felt like I came back into Europe every time I came back into the house. I had to learn a different culture. I came from a very Orthodox Yiddish-speaking Jewish home, had nothing to do with the United States and anything. And the only reason I'm here is because I was born here.
Claire, tell them about your family. Excuse me, Claire.
No, she told us.
It was
she told us when we read about Brazil. So she told us. But you know, we are going around the world. So next time we will be in Australia about 2 weeks or something. Then we will go. Then we will continue China, England, and I will come back to South America, to Argentina. Oh, maybe Cuba, I'm not sure yet. So we are going around the world.
Yeah, great
everyone,
idea.
Everyone, if you were born in China, you will be able to tell us about it.
Thank you, Minna, for everything. Even for allowing me my crazy comments. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I go where they want me to talk. I go to current events and they give me the mic all the time. Yep.
Okay. I cannot give you the mic all the time. There are 25 other people around here.
I'll let them talk. But the one thing I enjoyed today the most was the word plutzling. I sing it in a song that Mickey Katz wrote, a English song, Schlemazel. It's a very silly song, very funny. And in the song, it says, Plutzling kommt der Mädel rein. So I had to find out what I was singing. So I found out that plutzling was suddenly, and that's how I knew the word. How would I know the word plutzling, you know? I got a kick out of that. So
blitz him.
Yeah. Kommt am Mädel rein. Amul gewesen a girlfriend of mine.
Oh, okay, guys. See you all next
week. Have a nice week.
Claire, I said, I said, oh,